The NFL football season has gotten underway. Week 1 has been a surprise, I'd say. There's been a lot of things going on. A little bit of a lower scoring fantasy performance kind of day, but it is week 1, and I think that's kind of, if there's any week you're going to expect that to happen, I would think it would be this week. But yeah, I'm excited. We're going to talk about all the games that kind of went down today, as well as kind of talking through the current game that's currently playing right now live, the Baltimore Ravens and the Buffalo Bills. But Genoa, tell me how have you felt about today and how football has been back in the full swing.
Justin, yes, football is back. It's so exciting to have football now on a Sunday. And you know what? There was a lot of games that, Justin, I was thinking about it and we were talking about earlier today. There's been some week ones in the past couple of years that were just flat out boring. Like nothing really happened. It was whatever. But this week, it was some juice to it. It was some flavor to it. And I liked it. I mean, if I can talk about the games off the top of my head, Justin, I want to just real quick talk about the Steelers game. That was fun watch, Justin.
Oh yeah,
from beginning to end, and then we'll talk about this later. But as well as Green Bay and Detroit, I mean, these are some games that they got some storylines, they got some layers to talk about, and what a fantastic week 1 it was.
Yeah, and I'm glad that we can just kind of dive into these games. Definitely that game we will dive heavy into. But let's start with this Colts and Dolphins game, which was I think I picked the Colts to win in this one. You did pick the Dolphins, but I did not expect this game to unfold the way it did. I mean, Daniel Jones was actually pretty good. And the Miami Dolphins, even though we both project them to be a bad team this year, to probably be one of the worst, if not worst, in their division, they looked horrible. I think they had 60 total yards at halftime. And it has me, I know we don't want to overreact to week 1, but it definitely has me a bit scared for the season-long outlook for these guys. What do you think about them, though?
Yeah, Justin, I had thoughts that, I had the Browns picking with the first pick overall next year's draft. You had the Saints, and I'm thinking Miami might be in that conversation now too. I think that at the end of this year, everyone's going to be headed in different directions. I think Tyreek Hill might be the first one out. I think that he's very frustrated with this team already, and it's week 1. I mean, it was Daniel Jones versus Tua, so I feel like maybe Tyreek Hill thought he may have had the edge, but he was very frustrated. And I think he might be the first piece out. Maybe like we talked about, later at the end of the summer, that he could be traded to Kansas City. He could be going back to Kansas City. There's a chance. Or he could go somewhere else, right? A blockbuster trade. Who knows? Maybe he might go join Justin Herbert with the Chargers. But then, I don't know. HA might be the only piece. Maybe they might part ways with Tua. Maybe they fire Mike. Was McDaniels? Who I mean, Justin, it was just so bad today. I mean, Daniel Jones looked unbelievable today, rushing the football, throwing the football. And Jonathan Taylor, I mean, he had, 71 yards, 70-some yards rushing. Didn't have a crazy good game, but still Indianapolis able to, pour it on 33 points. And then their defense just stepped up. Let's just see if it's not a week 1 thing there, Justin, if this is something that they can build on going forward for the Colts.
I think those are all like really interesting points you bring up. And the Colts really just impressed me. I mean, every drive they put points on the board. They didn't have a punt. They didn't have a turnover. They scored, and it was kind of I was just kind of baffled, and because it wasn't Jonathan Taylor that was the guy. I mean, 18 for 71 is not really that good, under 4 yards per carry. DJ Giddens had 12 carries in this football game, and was also inefficient. And it really came down to, obviously I think Daniel Jones is kind of the surprise of the day for this game and for this team. But Tyler Warren, 7 catches, 76 yards, 9 targets in his debut. I think that my breakout pick might be on to something this year. I was super impressed what I saw from him. They were hyper targeting him. He was the favorite guy, in my opinion, throughout this game. And they were just really ahead really quickly in this game and kind of took it from there. I'm kind of curious. I think, let me see. Next week, the Colts play the Broncos. How confident are you in that matchup for any of these guys?
Are they're in Denver or they're in Indianapolis?
They're home. They're in Lucas Oil.
Oh, you know what? I like him to have a pretty decent fantasy game there. I think Denver can be beat on the road when they're not home there in their stadium in Denver. I think that, that's a tough place to play. And I think they have the home field advantage for sure. But I feel like when they're on the road, they could be beat. So maybe I'm not counting on it. I'm actually going to go with the Broncos still. I think Bo Nix has a better game than what we saw today in Tennessee against Tennessee. But I feel like, I still think the Broncos defense can shut down Daniel Jones.
Yeah, I think they looked pretty good, the Broncos defense, even though it was a close game with Tennessee today.
Yeah.
But I think kind of if people are worried, like, oh man, Tyler Warren had a great matchup, he did good this week. Next week's not the best matchup. I think I saw enough for him to be a solid starter still. So if you had him on the bench, aka me, I played David Njoku over him, and I sorely regret it. I will be playing Tyler Warren next week. David Njoku plays the Ravens, which is not the worst matchup, but I'm definitely gonna change course and go Tyler Warren now. And then last little thing about the wide receivers for both teams, really. But Michael Pittman's kind of the shining wide receiver in this game for the Colts. 6 catches, 80 yards, and a touchdown. I hope people don't overreact to this. I don't think it's this is a sign for him to have a great season. I'm going to go that it's more of a one-off. So I'm not rushing to get him. I don't think he's that available in many leagues, but if he is, I guess he might be worth a waiver wire pickup. But we'll talk about more waiver wire stuff as we get closer to Tuesday. But yeah, and I guess I'll throw it to you here with Tyreek. Obviously, this offense being kind of a sham of an offense today. Are you worried about Tyreek Hill? I know you talked about him possibly getting moved, but just say he doesn't. Are you worried about starting him? They play the Patriots at home next weekend.
I'm not worried about starting him, Justin, because this is a guy you probably drafted in the 3rd or 4th round with high expectations, thinking that you have all the biggest ceiling in the world. So I'm not benching him. For sure, I'm definitely worried about his future in Miami. I'm absolutely terrified. I mean, he did have talks years ago about retiring when this contract's done. There was offseason or the end of last year where he kind of was like, well, I'm out, kind of piecing out on a post-game conference. And then he's kind of backtracked there, not doubling down on anything, which was kind of odd. And Tua, I guess, had his thoughts on it. But I don't know. I'm still starting him up until if I don't get anything like week 6 or 7, then for sure I'm looking to maybe trade or something. I do think that he'll have a good couple of weeks. I just feel like definitely him and his coaching staff, maybe him and Tua they're just not on the same page.
Yeah, no, I think that's valid. I don't think they are I think just the team is feeling like they're just not together, and maybe that Mike McDaniel, as much as he's a fun coach, he might have been figured out by all the other NFL teams. We'll move to the next game. Cardinals and Saints, and this game was close early on. The Cardinals kind of kept their distance in the second half. But overall, I think I came away with the same thoughts I had last year. Kyler Murray is tough to watch, especially early in that game. He was struggling against a poor defense in the New Orleans Saints. They didn't involve James Conner as much as I thought they would. He did obviously get into the end zone, but it wasn't a great fantasy performance kind of day. Trey McBride was targeted very often. So if you have Trey McBride and you're like, I hope it was worth it to, spend high draft capital on him, you were going to be happy. He had 9 targets, 60 yards, 6 catches. And then Marvin Harrison got himself in the end zone as well. So I think that Harrison's kind of still on the same path. I might be a little bit more excited than I was, 6 hours ago on him. And then if you look at the Saints, Alvin Kamara, obviously he got in the end zone. He looks just like Alvin Kamara. And everybody else I'm kind of staying away from in New Orleans still. But what do you think about the entirety of this game?
Yeah, well, first things first, the Saints were a complete, dumpster fire, Justin. There's been some teams that, when they're a dumpster fire, they are just terrible week 1. I mean, maybe not even putting points on the board or maybe letting the opponent score over 30. And here, Arizona only scored 20 here. You talk about Kyler Murray there, Justin, and I in some ways I painfully agree because I'm a big Kyler fan. I think he's very talented. He's got the quick feet. He does have a pretty good arm. But there's just these moments where you feel like Kyler can lose you the football game. And it's weird because he's so talented. It's like, I mean, you got Marvin Harrison Jr., you got Trey McBride. I mean, these are pretty young players that are looking to be top in their position. I know Trey McBride, a lot of people consider him already a top 5 tight end. And it's just, he just makes these plays. I don't know if he misreads, before the ball snapped at the line of scrimmage. It's just, I don't know what it is with Kyler. It's just there's something missing with his mechanics. Thankfully, they were able to pull one today. He had two passing touchdowns, but still, like Justin, I want to be optimistic about Kyler, but there's just like one thing that's missing from his game. I can't really like put my finger on it. It's like that itch, Justin, that you feel it. You just can't find that itch. And for me, I'm just trying to figure out Kyler Murray's just lacking one thing to take him to the next level, right? To put him in that conversation with Jalen Hurts and Josh Allen and Mahomes. But I don't know. Hey, they were able to get the win. And I want to talk about the Saints real quick. They impressed me in some ways. Like they just weren't backing down. And I think if they had more time on the clock, I think Spencer Rattler could have tied the game. He did make a throw on third down. I think it was dropped by Vele. I could be wrong. It was on third down, the last drive to tie the game. And then the following play, I think he just threw it outside. I think it was incomplete if I'm mistaken. But other than that, I think, I thought Spencer Rattler could be a pretty decent quarterback 2 years ago before the draft. I remember I wanted him to go to Seattle once upon a time, Justin. But, hey, let's see what he can do under Kellen Moore offense.
Yeah, no, Rattler, you're right. The Saints, I think you worded it kind of perfectly. They showed more grit than I thought that they were built on. They stayed within this game. They made it competitive. It wasn't a blowout. And I think that's a good thing moving forward for Alvin Kamara owners, for Shaheed or Olave owners, even though poor Olave, I feel like every other catch, he was just getting lit up by a defender.
Yes.
He's getting too many hospital balls, and I hope he stays out of the hospital. But yeah, that was tough to watch there. Nobody really stepped up except Jawan Johnson had 8 catches in this game, which I mean is kind of interesting. I think let me see who they play next week. But if they, they play the Niners at home. I'm not gonna rush to pick him up and play him, but he could be worth a stash. If a reliable, short yardage tight end for a young quarterback that doesn't have the best offensive line and is going to be down in games. I think he's somebody worth monitoring. But yeah, I think that's kind of the coverage we have on this game. I was surprised to see how inefficient James Conner was today on the ground. 3.3 yards per carry, under 40 yards rushing. They didn't give it to him a ton on the ground. He only had 12 carries. But I guess the Saints defense, even without Chase Young, was able to stop him. Maybe that's more of a testament to how bad the offensive line is for Arizona. But I wasn't impressed there. And even the more explosive plays we saw in this game were by the other running backs. Benson had 69 yards on 8 carries. He had a long 52-yard run. So maybe Benson might be getting more usage than we expected this early. But that also is something worth monitoring. If you have Trey Benson, I'd be pretty happy right now. So yeah, that's kind of my takeaway in this game. We'll move to the next one. Raiders beat the Patriots 20-13. We saw Ashton Jeanty get himself in the end zone. We saw a 100 yards yards day from Brock Bowers. He did come up with an injury, but he said it is going to be okay. So I assume he will be good and back for the next game. The thing about Jeanty, he did get himself in the end zone, but how inefficient that was. He was 19 for 38. 2 yards per carry is not good at all. I think this Patriots defense is pretty legit, at least in the running game. Christian Gonzalez wasn't there, and I think that's why guys like Jacoby Myers was able to take advantage, had 97 yards on 8 targets. I don't expect the Patriots to be a bad defense in the slightest. I think they're only going to get better, and their run defense showed tremendous grit today. I think their secondary will improve. But the Raiders pull off the victory. I was wrong on this one. I thought New England was going to win. Drake May was pretty solid. They didn't utilize Henderson as much as I wanted them to, but he did get 6 receptions. So that was really, really good to see. So I'm super hopeful for Trevion. I still think Drake May's in line for good stuff. As for Stephon Diggs, he had 6 catches for 57 yards. I think that's a really solid debut for the Patriots. For Ramondre, I'm not liking it at all. He had 2 yards per carry as well. So there's a lot of takeaways here, some good, some bad. But overall, I'm happy that Jeanty got himself in the end zone. I think Geno Smith had himself a pretty solid football game. But what do you think about this game?
Yeah, Justin, I feel like with the Raiders, they look pretty sharp. I thought the Patriots came out the game. I think they scored the first touchdown. They look pretty good. But you know what, Justin? I don't know. This game is one of those kind of those imposter games that you see week one, right? Because the Patriots, they won last year in week one, and they probably were one of the worst teams after that in the league. But I think with this game, I think the Raiders did show that they could play. I just think that's one of those games that like they win a game and they just lose like 6 and 7 in a row. I was very impressed with Gene T. I think the fact that he was able to score a touchdown in this atmosphere, environment, this situation, I was very impressed. I mean, Geno was lighting it up. He had 362 with the tutty, and he also had interception. But Gene T was able to get a touchdown in the circumstances. I'm liking it next week against the Chargers. I know Pacheco and certain Chiefs running backs didn't really do all that well, but I think that next week at home against the Chargers, I think this is on Monday night next week. I think GT can have a pretty flashy game. Not saying 100 yards, but I do think he can get on the score there. One thing that was very impressive was Brock Bowers was all over my screen today. I mean, every single time they went to the Raiders game on Red Zone, or anytime I checked on the Raiders, it's intended for Bowers or pass made by Brock Bowers, and he made some big time play. He had this catch for 38 yards. Justin was critical during the game. He shows why he was a top fantasy pick in the top 2 to 3 rounds there. He gets picked fairly early. One thing I do want to mention is on the Patriots side, I think I did see Demario Douglas score today. He only had he had 2 catches for -2 yards. But I just feel like eventually this is going to be the number 1 guy in New England. Kayshon Boutte, he had 100 yards too, so maybe he's a guy that you could be looking at. And last thing is Hunter Henry. I mean, Justin, anybody to the fantasy world, if you're having trouble at tight end, guys, go ahead and get Hunter Henry. He's available. And no one really drafted him, Justin. I don't think he got drafted in any of the leagues we did. He got 8 targets today, 66 yards. I think he's the number 1 guy now that Drake May is being developed with a better coaching staff. Hunter Henry, he's been around. He's a veteran. I think he's going to be a guy that could help Drake May. And then lastly, on to Drake May. It looked like he was having a good game. He could just not convert on key third downs, mainly in the red zone as well. And I just think that, the Vegas Raiders were able to capitalize.
No, I think the biggest thing I want to kind of harp on what you said was the Hunter Henry discussion here, because he was a guy I talked about on Saturday on TikTok about. He was a bold prediction of mine that he was going to be a top tight end. He doesn't hit the top 3, but I think that it's a promising outing that he has, and I think he has good rapport with Drake May. So I think he's definitely worth looking at for your teams, especially if you had someone like David Njoku, who really bummed you out today, aka me. I was pretty bummed out with that performance. But yeah, let's move on to the next game. We'll talk about probably the most exciting and surprising game on the slate, when it was the Pittsburgh Steelers and the New York Jets. We thought it was going to be probably the lowest scoring game on the week, at least I did. And it comes out to be the only 30-point game we've seen today. And so I think that with the Colts too. But I think that this game shows me a lot. I am now very, very much more on board with Justin Fields this year. I had him, I think, as my breakout quarterback. You had him as your sleeper quarterback, or vice versa. So we were both really high on him. And he showed up today. He showed up in a big way. And I think that he's going to be a guy you can start week in and week out. Quarterback 3 performance this week against the Pittsburgh Steelers defense that we assumed would be able to slow them down. It's the first time with new coordinator Tanner Engstrand and new coach Aaron Glenn, and he's in a new team, and they showed out. And the interesting thing about it was the Steelers were able to keep up with them big time. Aaron Rodgers, as much as he is 40 years old, he showed that he was back in the 2019-2020 form. He was playing really good, had 4 touchdowns today. And I think that's really great. DK Metcalf showed some serious explosive play behavior. Like, he was able to really take plays, had some major yards after catch. And it's got me excited for DK. It's got me excited for Aaron Rodgers. The running game was pretty subpar, so I'm not super excited about the Warren, Caleb Johnson, Kenny Gainwell got in there, split. I'm not excited about that at all. But Aaron Rodgers and DK Metcalf. And then on the other side, Breece Hall had a phenomenal game, over 100 yards rushing, had a handful of catches. Him, Fields, and Wilson, I think, are in line for a really big season too. So overall, super impressed by this football game. What do you think?
Yeah, Justin, definitely the more fun games. Probably one of the best week one matchups I think I've ever seen. As Derrick Henry rushes for a 20-yard touchdown. I just want to say this, Justin. Definitely probably the most entertaining week one matchups I've ever seen. It's just one of those elements. This is why you love football, because you don't expect this to happen, right? Justin Fields in his first game with the Jets, with Aaron Glenn facing off Aaron Rodgers with his final year, what could be Mike Tomlin's final year, week one. And then it's like an X factor. I was telling my dad this today. These two quarterbacks played for the opposite team last year. They were starting, I believe, in week ones of last year for the opposite team. And I feel like it's so crazy that these two win against each other. And it was a duel for the ages there. And it ends off in a Jalen Ramsey. He kind of pops Garrett Wilson there. Wilson drops the ball on fourth down. And that's how the Steelers were able to win. And a defensive play ends an offensive star matchup. And I just love to see everything about this. Like, Justin, Aaron Rodgers, once upon a time, one of my favorite players. I mean, 2014 or, 20, I want to say 11 to like 2018 Packers. Man, those 7 years of Aaron Rodgers was some of the most fun football and in many ways better than watching the Patriots dynasty, right? I mean, you can hate both players, both teams. Once upon a time, Aaron Rodgers was the most entertaining player in football. I'm glad to see him now in his what could be his final year with Pittsburgh. And the Steelers have kind of needed this quarterback play for years, right? They've always won these ugly close games with TJ Watt and this defense. Post Big Ben with Kenny Pickett or Mason Rudolph or whoever it was. Now, Justin, they have an elite quarterback. If he's healthy, if he could be the Aaron Rodgers of what we've seen and a little bit of glimpses at the end of last year with the Jets, I mean, this could be a very fun team to watch. Looking at it, what he has in his arsenal, he has DK Metcalf, who had a pretty good game today. Let's see, how much did DK have? I think he had about what? 80 some yard. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty good. Calvin Austin, I think, got into the end zone. They have two solid tight ends, Jonnu Smith, Pat Freiermuth. I think Jalen Warren even got in the end zone today. I just think that, this could be a team that if Aaron Rodgers is healthy, they're going to be a fun team to watch. And then as well as the Jets. I mean, Garrett Wilson had a great game today. He had 95 yards and a touchdown. Justin Fields was phenomenal today. Breece Hall, I mean, he showed that he could really be a running back that we can all rely on. And it was a fun game to watch, Jeff. Definitely for sure, Justin.
Yeah, I'm coming away from this game almost completely flipped on the Breece Hall take that a lot of us had, but I'll take ownership here. I was not high on Breece Hall with the kind of crowded backfield and the fact that he's kind of talking at these press conferences. Sad that he was like, they didn't pick me, they don't really want me, it seems. And he came out here and took all of the touches from Braylon Allen and Isaiah Davis. They each only had, I believe, 2 carries. So I think that Breece Hall is in line for a great season. And if you were able to take him, I think that you're going to be very happy with how it ends. And yeah, with Justin Fields, it's the same exact story, except I was on Justin Fields to be a good fantasy quarterback. I think he's going to be great. And next week they host the Bills. I think that might be a shootout, a scoring fest. So I'm really excited there. For the Steelers, they play the Seahawks next week, which I think we won't get as much fireworks as this game. But I also thought that about this game earlier today. So very interested to see how things move forward. I don't know. The Caleb Johnson usage today scares me a bit if you have him. I don't know what to say there besides it's probably going to take a little bit longer than you may think for him to really crack a roll. I mean, it was kind of annoying, and I don't even have Caleb Johnson in that many leagues, but Kenny Gainwell was getting touches today, and I was like, what in the world is going on? They're really just treating Caleb Johnson as a rookie, and that's that is what he is, but we'll see how that progresses moving forward. Let's move to the next game, though, with the Washington Commanders going and beating the New York Giants. This game was tight throughout. I thought that the Giants might pull it out, might give themselves a chance to win this game. It was 14-3 for a while, and then it was 14-6, and we thought maybe the Giants can get a stop and then, make a play there, and it doesn't happen. But kind of the 2 biggest takeaways I have from this game, Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt led running backs for the team in carries. Chris Rodriguez was a healthy scratch, so he's already passed him in the depth chart. He gets into the end zone. He had 82 yards on 10 carries, so super efficient. Great game from him. And then Deebo Samuel showed us a lot today that I was super impressed with. 7 catches, 10 targets, 77 yards. He gets a rushing touchdown on the ground, 19-yard rush touchdown. So he might be back in play from what we saw from him a couple of years ago in San Francisco. I think that obviously having this full training camp as the wide receiver one with McLaurin's, hold out or hold in, I guess it was technically. And McLaurin, obviously, he started out slow, which I think we expected. It's hard. It's kind of a proven track record when you spend all of camp and off season with contract negotiations and you're not practicing with your team. It shows up on the field that way, and he struggled today. So I don't look at him too much worse. I didn't think he was going to have a good game today, and he doesn't. But Deebo Samuel, Ja'Cory Cross-Merritt, wonderful games. What do you think about those two guys, and then the Giants as well?
Yeah, I mean, Ja'Cory Cross-Merritt, 10 carries, 82 yards, a touchdown. He had a 42-yard rush. Then you look at Eckler, who I thought was going to be the guy, only gets 6 rushes there. Eckler did get about 3 catches for 30 yards, so not too worried there about the running back situation. I think he actually did look good out of the backs, Ja'Cory Cross-Merritt, or Bill, if you want to call him that. And he's the guy. I mean, maybe the Commanders said, hey, we need to part ways from Brian Robinson right now. We don't want to pay him. We see this guy, and maybe they would make the right move there. Jaden Daniels there didn't play too bad, 19 to 30. He had 33 passing yards and a touchdown. And you know what? He just played as well as he could. Didn't get sacked too much. Got sacked a few times. But yeah, Deebo, 77 yards. And he also had a rushing touchdown. So pretty good fantasy day there for Deebo Samuel, especially if you're able to start him at a flex spot. I mean, that's really good numbers there. And that's really it. I know Zach Ertz, I did want to talk about as well. If you're having tight end trouble, along with Hunter Henry, what I said earlier, Zach Ertz is another guy that you can look at, a future Hall of Famer in my eyes, Justin. I know you might agree. Eagles, great. And I think that he's going to be a guy that's going to be getting looked at there from Jaden Daniels in the red zone. So old man Ertz, he still got it. Going on to the Giants side, I want to say this, Justin. I think Jackson Dart is actually going to be here sooner than we think. And I know this game isn't all Russell Wilson's fault, but he was 17 for 37 today, Justin. And I don't know. He did get sacked only twice. But, he did get Neighbors 12 targets. So this is what I was talking about in the offseason. No matter the quarterback, he's going to get his target share, Malik Neighbors. However, I think that this win is the Giants' coaching staff and organization. I think they kind of took personal. And I think now this is like an invisible kind of short lease. But I think Russell Wilson is now on the hot seat like that, Justin. Like that. And you know what? I want to say, if they don't win, who do they play next week, Justin? If they don't win next week or in 2 weeks, they play Dallas in Dallas, and they have a Sunday night football game home against Kansas City week 3. So if it's not looking good by week 3, Justin, what happened to Russell Wilson in Denver after a couple weeks? They turn on him with Nathaniel Hackett that first season in Denver. So you could imagine now, Justin, that I don't know. I think that if you get a few bad performances there, Jackson Dart's going to be the guy. He's listed QB2. They drafted him in the first round. He looked really, really good his last preseason game. I think Neighbors and him can really, really, I don't know. I'm a little nervous for Russell Wilson.
No, I think you're completely right. And I am also looking at this schedule, and through the first 8 weeks, oh my gosh, this schedule is just really, really tough. But through the first 8 weeks, you got to add Dallas, Kansas City, the Chargers. You got an easy game with the Saints, and then Eagles, Denver, Eagles again. So those I'm predicting a 1-7 record going into Week 8. There is no way that Russell Wilson lasts through a 1-7 start and keeps the starting job. So I do completely agree with you that Dart might be on his way soon. And I think that it's going to be a good thing because Russell Wilson proved to be not as good as I thought he would be in this game. The Commanders' defense is not great. I know Dan Quinn's at the helm, and it is year 2 under him, so there could be improvements. There was today, but I was very unsatisfied and underwhelmed from Russell Wilson, as you mentioned. So Yeah,
Yeah.
there's some worries with the quarterback there, but I'm still not worried about Neighbors regardless of quarterback.
Oh no,
Yeah, 12 targets
absolutely not.
today. He just, I guess, wasn't. I didn't see all of his targets, but I'm sure there was a handful of uncatchable ones today, and that's why he got 5 catches but 12 targets. So yeah, and for Jaden Daniels, he's going to be good. He didn't have the best day today, but don't worry about him. We'll move to the next game with the Jaguars and the Panthers. Obviously, it was a weird game because it got delayed in the second quarter for over an hour with the weather. But the kind of big story, Travis Etienne had a phenomenal game today. 71-yard run was super impressive, looked explosive. I think Tank Bigsby looked pretty solid as well. But yeah, the Panthers, man, they just had no juice today. And I was not impressed. Besides McMillan, and I think even Chuba deserves. He had a good game. He had a touchdown in the receiving game, 57 yards rushing, 32 yards receiving. But Bryce Young did not look good. You know, right above 50% passing accuracy, and then 150 yards, 2 picks, and a score. It really wasn't impressive for him today. And on the flip side, I wouldn't say Lawrence was that impressive either. They really relied on a successful run game for ETN. Brian Thomas Jr. wasn't even that involved today. He had the rushing touchdown, which was a cool play. But in the receiving game, only 1 reception. He did have, what is it? I think he had 7 targets on those one, so he had looks. It just didn't work out this week. So I'm not worried about him. For Hunter, I really liked what I saw. I think he's going to be solid this season. He had some defensive snaps, but it was mainly on offense. Brenton Strange, I think, looked pretty solid today as well. He was targeted a lot early. The second half, after the weather delay, not so much. Even the backup tight end got the touchdown, which is whatever. But I think Etienne's kind of be the guy. That's kind of my look at this week right now. Etienne's going to be the running back of choice in this backfield. Brian Thomas Jr. is fine. Brenton Strange worth a sleeper ad possibly. They play the Bengals next week, so that might be a good matchup for you if you need a tight end. But yeah, what do you think about this football game and the players in it?
Yeah, Justin, I'm a little hurt by Bryce Young's performance today. My heart is hurting from Bryce Young, Justin. I was one of the things when I woke up this morning, I was really excited about. I'm like, guys, this is Bryce Young's day. This is Bryce Young's moment, week 1 statement game in Jacksonville, and it didn't even get to 200 passing yards there, Justin. A touchdown with 2 interceptions. I mean, literally, this offense just looks so slow, so boring. And the leading receiver was Ted McMillan with 68 yards. And you know what? I hate to say it, but I'm a little worried now. It's like, you hate to react quickly to week 1 matchups,
right?
But like, this is the one that's like, okay, this is not a reaction. This feels kind of like a letdown, big letdown. And looking at it for Jacksonville, I mean, this is a step the right direction. Travis Etienne on 16 carries had 143 yards. He had this big rush. I want to say it was in the second quarter for like 71. I was like, this guy's going to score. It's Travis Etienne. He's back. I'm like, Liam Cohen, you've done it again, buddy. You're like the running back whisperer. I mean, you kind of discovered Bucky, who had a great game. We'll talk about later. But still, I mean, and then the running backs carries is interesting because Tank Bigsby only had 5 carries for 12 yards, and then Bayshaw Tootin with 3 carries only. So it makes you wonder that ETN kind of knew, like, okay, well, let me go ahead and get this big game in. I'm not trying to, be benched early in this season. And then, yeah, Brian Thomas didn't have a great game, but I just think that, the Jags just kind of played defense going out. I mean, I think the weather delay kind of helped them a little bit more. I think at the weather delay, they were already up 17 or 20-3 at that point, or 17-3 around that time in the second quarter. So I just think that, they just kind of played defensively from there. Nothing too much from the Jags outside of, Travis Hunter got a couple plays on defense. He did get 3 catches?
6 catches.
Or six catches, excuse me. I'm sorry, 6 catches. And a couple plays on defense. It looks like he did get a tackle on defense as well. Not too crazy. Rushing looking good. As far as Carolina, for me, I'm very disappointed. Chuba got 16 carries for only 57 yards. I mean, I don't know. I just hope this offense can pick up hopefully along the season.
Yeah, I think that for the Panthers, I think right now in that locker room, and by Dave Canales and general manager that they are regretting trading away Adam Thielen. I think they were trading away Thielen with the expectation to have Jalen Coker. Now Coker's hurt, and they didn't expect that to happen after the trade. But now I think they're just lacking capable pass catchers behind Tetero McMillan. I don't think Leggett is that good of a player. Definitely not worth the first round draft pick that he was selected at last year. Hunter Renfrow, he's Hunter Renfrow. He's kind of past his prime as well. Jatavion Sanders, I think, could possibly be something, but I don't know how much of a difference maker he is. So I think the Panthers might struggle more than I thought they would. I know it is one game. But I am very impressed from Jacksonville in this football game. I think that it's for good things to come. As a Texans fan, I'm actually a little bit worried that the division could be in danger with Jacksonville coming around and Liam Cohen running that offense. But we'll move to the next game. The Bengals and the Browns. We did predict it would be a close one, and it sure was. But it wasn't a fireworks fest. It was not a very exciting offensive outpour kind of game for either side. I will candidly take the L and move on from Jerome Ford. I thought this would be the game for him. But Dylan Sampson clearly got the nod over him and did really good with his opportunities. So if you have Jerome Ford and you drafted him, say bye-bye. It's not going to happen. They did sign Quinshon Judkins this week to a contract, so he's returning soon, which means Jerome Ford is gone. I mean, he was getting touches even behind Rocket Sanders, who they just picked up off the street last week. So Jerome Ford, I learned my lesson. He is gone. David Njoku, a little disappointing, definitely disappointing there that even his backup, who I think is actually a very talented tight end, and Harold Fannin Jr., was just outplaying him. Had 7 catches, 63 yards. Today was really a story of the rookies for the Browns. I know they lost, but Dylan Sampson and Harold Fannin were, instrumental pieces to getting them down the field in times where they, were getting there. I know they didn't score touchdowns, but Rocket Sanders got a touchdown, or Raheem Sanders, if you look him up. But Rocket Sanders is what he went by in college. But yeah, I know Cedric Tillman got in the end zone. That was very good to see. And Judy got, led the team in receiving yards. But I overall, I'm not like crazy excited from this team. Njoku, I think that there may be a little bit cause for concern there with how much Fannin was playing well and getting looks from Joe Flacco. And then in the run game, I do think Sampson's the guy next week. If you want to throw him in your lineup as a flex play, I think he's worthy of a flex play. They play the Ravens on the road. Not the most wonderful matchup there, but Sampson got a lot of catches and will be very useful in PPR leagues. And if you look on the Bengals side of things, obviously it was a tough one. Joe Burrow did not have a good game, and T. Higgins did not have a good game. And, the number 1 overall pick, Jamar Chase, did not have a good game either. Chase Brown's the only one that had a good fantasy output, and that was mainly because he got into the end zone. But I'm not worried about this team. They always start slow. I thought they might start a little bit quicker this year, but that just means that they're on track. They're not ahead of the game. They're on track, and I think they'll be totally fine.
Yeah, Justin, I totally agree with you. With that last drive when I think it was Cleveland going the other end to score the game-winning field goal, I don't know who forced a fumble for Cincinnati to secure the game. I was kind of thinking before that drive, like, if Cincinnati can just get the stop here, this will be good for everyone. For Cincinnati, for anybody who owns the Bengals, whether it's Joe Burrow, Chase Brown, T. Higgins, or Jamar Chase. I just feel like if they can get this win, they're going to go the right way momentum, because they're going to have those games, Justin, where that defense does give up 400 total yards to an opposing offense. There's going to be times where that defense does give up 30 points. So I was just thinking in my head, if Cincinnati can just get by and win this game, it'll really help everyone here. Cincinnati, anybody that you have on the Bengals you may own. I just feel like this game, yes, it's the Cleveland Browns that no one has expectations for. You got to remember, Joe Burrow has struggled against the Browns. I think he's like, 1-4, Justin? And I think this might be one of his first times winning in Cleveland. I could be wrong on that, but still, like, he struggles on those road games, like a Cleveland, up north Ohio, when it's not in Cincinnati. And look, 113 passing yards. He didn't turn over the football, thank God. But you know what? He does have these struggle games to start week ones, and it's been a thing in his career. He's only had a really good week one when it's against Minnesota. The year that they go to the Super Bowl, I think that's Jamar Chase's rookie game, first game of his career. Thankfully they got to win. And let's see, next week they do go to home and they play the Jaguars there on Sunday. So that's a winnable game for them, Justin, to go up 2-0. And then the game week 3 that I'm looking for is Jamar versus Jettas in Minnesota. So that's a game that I'm already, putting a little star next to. That's going to be fireworks there. But yeah, Justin, pretty much not too much to say about this game. I expected this out of Cleveland. Very disappointing, though, that Jerome Ford only got 6 carries. I mean, come on. Judy, that's an expected stat line that he got 8 targets, 5 catches, 66 yards there. Dylan Sampson's a guy that you can definitely now pick up, Justin, because, yes, he led the team in carries, but he was also second in receiving yards with 8 catches. Led the team, essentially, in receiving and receptions. And second in receiving yards. So that's a guy you can pick up. Jerome Ford if you want to keep him and stash him just in case, you can, but he could be Dumpsville just because it's not only Dylan Sampson. Raheem Sanders scored a touchdown today as well, Justin. And you mentioned Quinshon Judkins is going to be back. So, you pretty much can say bye to Jerome Ford. He can be cut in fantasy leagues. He might be cut in real life. Could be a chance.
He could. I feel like they never really want him to be the starter, and then he always has, ends up being the starter due to injury to the actual starter. I think now they realize that we have actually a talented backup rookie running back. We're going to do that. We're going to run with that. Because, he wasn't efficient. 6 carries for 8 yards. Come on, against the Bengals defense. He's gone. He's gone for me, at least. We'll move to the next game. Tampa Bay and Atlanta. This game was fun for me, in particular, because in our big league, I have Bijan Robinson, who had a phenomenal RB1 performance. Even though his RB1 performance might be getting passed up tonight because Derrick Henry has over 100 yards rushing and a score already in the second quarter. But anyways, Bijan Robinson was great. His rushing game was not good. 2 yards a carry on 12 carries wasn't great, but the receiving work was just more than you could ever dream of. Had over 100 yards receiving. Obviously had the big 50-yard touchdown in the first quarter. So he was great, and he is going to be great this season. Drake London was peppered with targets. The stat line at the end of the day for fantasy is not wonderful unless you're in a full PPR league, but 8 catches, 55 yards on 15 targets. So he was getting looked at. They just weren't down the field targets, and a lot of them were overthrows from Penix. Even though I think Penix had a very solid outing this game, and they almost tied it. Younghoe Koo was the absolute loser of today. He missed 2 kicks, one being a 37-yard field goal to tie the game to go to overtime, and he shoots it wide right. So he's in the doghouse, hopefully for them. Kyle Pitts had a very solid game for the tight end position. 7 catches, 59 yards. I think I'm actually pretty happy and impressed from that performance. Now, I will say, last year, 2 of his best 3 games were against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, so maybe this is just how they scheme him against Tampa Bay that they utilize him a lot. So we'll see how he plays moving forward. I wouldn't say I'm crazy excited about his fantasy value. I'm curious how he's utilized next week at Minnesota. If he has another good game, though, I might just be on board. I know he's rostered in a good amount of leagues, but my eye is on him for sure. And then in the Tampa Bay side of things, you see the guy in the picture right here, Emeka Egbuka, with a phenomenal rookie debut, 2 scores. Obviously, the dagger touchdown to help this team win the game on the road. He looked like a great wide receiver out the gate. He was relied on heavily, just as much as Mike Evans was. He got less targets at the end of the day, but obviously got into the end zone twice. And I just think that Baker Mayfield and him are going to have a good connection this year. And I think regardless of the return of McMillan and Godwin. I think Ibuka is in line to have probably the best rookie season out of the guys we have here. Over Tetaroa, I'm on that. Golden didn't have a good day today. We'll talk about him later. Who else was there? Hunter, he was fine in his debut. 6 catches I was happy with. But Egbuka, really great game. Evans is still Evans, so I'm not worried about him there. And Bucky, I think, is the last guy kind of on the discussion board for me. And he didn't have the best game in the world. He did get himself in the end zone on a really great play, actually. The dive out to the pylon. It was one of those highlight plays for sure. But not super efficient on the ground. Did have 4 catches. So Bucky, I'm actually really happy with. He looked explosive on a couple of plays. But what do you think about everybody that we discussed in this game?
Yeah, Justin. I mean, Emeka Ibuka is already the clear favorite to win Rookie of the Year, Offensive Rookie of the Year. I mean, I think that him and Baker, I think this is just the beginning for them. I mean, they're going to torch defenses all season, and I think that Mike Evans being there, it does help out in some ways for Ibuka because now certain defenses don't really know what to happen. Then when Chris Godwin gets there, when he gets back, and then Jace McMillan, I mean, Ibuka is going to trick defenses like you wouldn't believe. Whoever's making these plays and up there in Tampa, I mean, they're gonna have a ton of fun. So that's one thing. I think Emeka Ibuka is for sure the leading candidate to have a great season. And I think Baker played pretty well there. But here's one. I know he lost today, but I want to talk about Michael Penix. I think it's so impressive that he goes 27 of 42. I mean, with that stance, and he's left-handed, he goes 27 of 42, which is to me very impressive. That it's just the little things. He was just 2 yards away, Justin, from 300 passing yards there. And then I think, obviously we wanted Drake London to have a better game. But if I do remember right, I think he did score a touchdown that was called back. Drake made. So I want to say it was the end of the fourth. It was one of those drives that led to Penix with the rushing touchdown where he barely – it was that same drive because there was a ton of penalties against Tampa and against Atlanta, and it was just real ugly. So for me there, Justin, I'm impressed with both teams. I think now my Texans have to play Tampa Bay next Monday night, and that's going to be a very concerning game. I'll be there, and I'm going to be very scared, Justin, because Bucky Irvin can have a great game at any moment. Emeka Ibuka can have a great game. Mike Evans, who's a hometown guy, could have a great game at any moment. Yeah. For the Falcons, I mean, you mentioned Bijan Robinson. What more can you say? We're going to get to see him next Sunday night, this time next Sunday at Minnesota. So expect some fireworks there at US Bank Stadium, and that's going to be so much fun to watch. Penix versus J.J. McCarthy. I mean, literally, it doesn't sound also attractive, but to me it is, Justin. To me it is. So both these teams impress. I think Kyle Pitts can have a good season going forward. 8 targets is promising. I do think Drake London could get 100 yards next week.
Yeah, no, I really like that matchup next week. And I think for Penix, people should be really excited about him because his receivers in this game, they played well. There was that Washington guy. He played pretty solid. Obviously London, obviously Pitts. But when they get Darnell Mooney back, he is able to stretch the field for Penix and this offense that I think that he's not the number 1 wide receiver, but when he comes back to the team and is healthy, I think this offense takes an extra step forward. We'll move to the next game, though, to the 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock slate, wherever you're watching from. But the 49ers get the victory here against Seattle. It was a close one throughout. McCaffrey, to me, looked pretty good. He looked like McCaffrey. He didn't look like he was too slow. And my favorite, obviously, poor George Kittle leaves with a hamstring injury, missed most of the game. Did he score? I think he might have scored.
He did score. He did score, I think, one of the first drives.
Yeah, so he scored, but he did leave early due to an injury, didn't return. But the big story to me, Ricky Pearsall, over 100 yards on the day. I think that he's in line to be great. He's in line to be really good, and I think that he is going to be I think it's just going to be really good. I'm on board with Ricky Pearsall and what he showed us today. And on the Seattle side, Kenneth Walker struggled today. But if you saw my TikToks, I had a running back rankings videos across Instagram and YouTube. I said Kenneth Walker has a history of struggling against this team in the 49ers, and that is exactly what he did. He did it to more of an extent than I had expected with, 10 carries for 20 yards, really bad performance there. But I just think that he just doesn't do good against the Niners. They know how to guard him up, and it was just a struggle. I know Charbonnet had more carries. I'm curious to see what your thoughts are on that backfield duo. Are you worried about Walker's usage compared to Charbonnet?
I am, Justin. You know what, I am, because to be honest, in some ways, I have a little bit of a thing for Zach Charbonnet. I know that sounds weird, but as far as fantasy football, I have a soft spot for him. I think that he's one of the running backs that could really lead the league in rushing if he has his own team to play for. Justin, 12 carries, 47 yards, and a touchdown. Kenneth Walker, 10 carries, 20 yards, nothing. That's really it. He struggled bad, Justin. He just did not look himself. And I hate to say it, but I just think Charbonnet's the better guy. I've had this gut feeling for a little bit. It's kind of like, do you want ice cream or, you want cake? It's just like you want something more than the other. I just feel, I don't know if that makes sense, but I just feel like Charbonnet, he's the better player. I just think that he's been in the league for a little bit, some time now. This is his second year, and I think he's learned. I think in some ways he's catching up to Kenneth Walker, and I am worried, Justin. I am very worried. Now the Seahawks, they go to Pittsburgh next week. I don't know. I think that Steelers defense does bounce back just a little bit after getting poured on with 32 points there in New York. And I just feel like, I don't know, I'm very concerned for Kenneth Walker to have a good game on the road. We'll see. One thing that I was disappointed of was Sam Darnold. I expected more from him. He looked like Jets Sam Darnold rather than Vikings Sam Darnold. Those are two completely different players there, Justin. And very disappointing. Only 150 yards, didn't get a touchdown there. And 150 of his yards, Justin, all 124 was to JSN, Jackson Smith, and Jigba there. So 124 out of those 150 passing yards. It's crazy, Justin. So they didn't really have another guy. Cooper Kupp was the second leading guy there with 2 catches, 15 yards. And that's really it. That's really it there for Seattle. So it makes you kind of, San Francisco, I've been down on them a lot. Maybe Robert Saleh being there changes things, Justin. Their defense gets better. They stop the rush. And even though Jackson Smith and Jigba had a great game receiving, it still doesn't move the needle all too much, even though they did win by 4. But still, Justin, Ricky Pearsall there, 108 yards to match, that other end. And Christian McCaffrey, he did have 18 fantasy points there, didn't get into the end zone, but still, hey, if my fantasy, number one pick who's went to the week kind of late questionable, Justin. This was like Friday evening. They're like, Christian McCaffrey's questionable. By the way, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, he questionable, came on, didn't score a touchdown, but still 18 fantasy points there. Very impressive there. Love Christian McCaffrey's matchup next week in the Dome against the Saints. And then lastly, Purdy, not so bad, 277, 2 passing touchdowns. One of them going into Jake Tongues. And he could be a waiver wire pickup depending on what we see out of George Kittle's injury.
That's true. I think we do need to monitor that. That is a good thing to kind of end off with this game, is monitor the George Kittle news, because I think when he plays, he's going to be really good. Obviously, he showed that in his short sample of playing. But yeah, we'll move to the next game. Broncos and Titans. I think that what I take away from this is that the Titans defense could be a bit better than we expect. I know we expect the Titans to not be a good team overall this year, but they were competitive in this game until almost the very end. In Denver, the offense, Bo Nix wasn't as great as I thought he would be in this first game. Not even 100, not even 200 passing yards, 2 picks. They traded, each team traded 2 fumbles. So it was a turnover fest for both teams. But what I take away from it is I think that the split between Dobbins and Harvey is going to be pretty down the middle. I know Dobbins definitely led in carries there. He had 16 to Harvey's 6, but Harvey looked like the more explosive back in this game. Dobbins did seal the game with the late rushing touchdown. For Pollard, I think that he was pretty solid in, getting all the touches for this team. I think he's going to be in a good matchup. He could really explode and have a good performance. And then the last thing I think is, for me, that I think is really relevant. There's multiple things still, but Calvin Ridley had a couple drops today. Wasn't impressive playing. I know he had the Pat Surtain treatment, so maybe I won't hold it against him too much. And then the Cortland Sutton, he's just a touchdown magnet, man. And I think he's going to be he'll have such a good floor for you every week, where he will get you minimum 8 to 10 points. and then on a really good day be a 20+ point guy. I think if you have him, you should be really happy. I think he's going to be just a really reliable piece for your team. But what do you think about this game?
Yeah, Justin, I think Broncos did good. Really, I mean, it was some ways I would say the second and third quarter, and maybe a little bit of the fourth was just a tough watch. But then you see the Broncos break through and get the victory. I think we haven't seen a lot of this offense. I think we saw just a little bit of this Denver offense. I think Bo Nix, 176 yards. I think he's going to do a lot better across the season. The rushing was actually really good, Justin, for Denver. I mean, J.K. Dobbins, 63 yards, a rushing touchdown, 16 carries. But then R.J. Harvey, he did have 70 yards, only 6 carries, but he had a rush for 50 yards in that second half. And he looks to be, I don't know, potentially this could be, I wouldn't say a two-headed monster, but you kind of have R.J. Harvey that's, kind of hybrid guy, power rusher in some ways. But then you got J.K. Dobbins, a speedster, the veteran there who's been through all you can think of in the National Football League. And Courtland Sutton, you mentioned he's a guy that is, I mean, him and Bo Nix really do have a serious connection there towards the end zone. And they're definitely going to be getting connected there. Next week they play the Colts. So I think they're going to dominate. I think Bo Nix could definitely have a great game. So could Courtland Sutton. And it gets interesting, though, Justin, because after Courtland Sutton, there really isn't a guy you're so confident in starting. Evan Ingram only had, 4 targets, 3 catches, 21 yards. That was a little disappointing there, Justin. But I think that, hopefully we can see this Broncos passing attack in full effect because I'm a fan of Marvin Mims and Troy Franklin and Evan Ingram. So hopefully these guys can have a big game. And last thoughts overall of this game, Cam Ward, he's going to struggle. Last year, the Bears with Caleb Williams, the first pick overall, he did struggle in his game, even though they won against this Titans team. So I don't think, he did struggle in that game and a home victory. Caleb Williams did. But Cam Ward, I think that, he struggled on the road, but I think that he's a rookie. It's week 1. It's not going to be a consistent thing. He's going to find his stride. Next week, they do play home to the LA Rams. That could be a tough game, but still, in front of the home crowd, maybe he can find his juice.
Yeah, no, and I definitely don't hold this against Cam Ward that much. I kind of look at it similar to what we saw from C.J. Stroud in his rookie debut. They played the Ravens on the road. It was a tough game. He showed maybe a couple flashes, but it just, they clearly didn't have enough to beat Baltimore. And I think that's kind of the similar situation. You got a good defense in Denver. I don't hold it against Cam Ward that much. I didn't think he was going to have a good game. We'll move to the next game, though, which probably was the most shocking game that just wasn't a close game. The Packers dominated Green Bay in this one. I thought that we might see a little bit of an easing back into form for Jordan Love, but he played really well. He had the hand injury. And then you got Jacobs, who didn't do that great on the ground. He did get himself in the end zone near the end of the game, right? Or was it mid-game maybe?
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, Matthew Golden underwhelmed today, unfortunately. I was wanting to see him kind of I know it's only his first game, so there's that, but I thought he might take a little bit more of a role in this offense. He only had 2 catches, 16 yards, so that wasn't wonderful. On the Detroit side of things, Jahmyr Gibbs, obviously 9 carries, 19 yards, nothing great there, but holy crap, 10 receptions. He was a lot for them in the checkdown game. Jared Goff just didn't have the best performance. The Packers defense is good, man. They got Micah Parsons. You got Edgerrin Cooper, who led the team in tackles today. You got Quay Walker, Rashawn Gary, Xavier McKinney in the secondary. They got a good defense, man, and it showed today because the rushing game was, which we claim that Detroit is the best in the league. It was a shell of itself today, and in the receiving game, it was like Laporta was getting a ton of catches. I think that was good. Amon-Ra didn't do that well today. I'm not worried about their fantasy values right now, but I'm a bit worried about the Lions as a whole. They didn't look that great today. Next week they host the Bears. I think that is a bounce back kind of area, a revenge game for David Montgomery possibly. But that's kind of my takeaways from this game. What about you?
Yeah, Justin, I mean, how about those Green Bay Packers? I mean, this is why I have this team representing the NFC in the Super Bowl. I know we still got a long ways to go, but if they can play like this every week there, Justin, if they can play this every week, they will be there for sure, no doubt. Next week, they do start week 2 Thursday night. home against the Commanders. So that is going to be a very big prove-it game for Green Bay, seeing as Washington is, you can consider them one of the top 4 to 5 teams in the NFC. And I just feel like Jordan Love, phenomenal. 92 quarterback rating, and 16 for 22, didn't turn over the ball much. He did only have 188 yards passing, but 2 touchdowns, made precise throws when needed. I think it was his second passing touchdown to Jaden Reed was sweet. He didn't go so crazy. He was kind of like spreading the wealth and kind of just managing the clock. I know LaFleur kind of saw that they were getting to Jared Goff defensively. So, Jordan Love just playing pretty good. So I just feel like if this defense can set him up perfectly. I know Jordan Love can make the precise throws. And this is without, Matt Golden he only had 2 targets, Justin. I know you were disappointed in that, but Tucker Kraft, this was a thing that we knew what was going to happen, Justin. There's a lot of mouths to feed on this Green Bay offense. What makes Jordan Love a great fantasy player and can literally take him to the Super Bowl, because you don't have Christian Watson, who's out, but then you have Romeo Doubs, who gets 4 targets, leads the team in receiving yards. You get Jaden Reed, 5 targets, and gets you a touchdown. They're only 45 yards. But then you get Tucker Kraft, who, yes, only had 2 targets for 4 targets for 16 yards and a touchdown. There's so many mouths to feed, and Matt Golden didn't get looks, right? And then we'll get Dontavian Wicks. He was third on this team in receiving yards. He only got 2 targets, and so there's so many mouths to feed here. Just not to mention Josh Jacobs is really good catching the football. He only had 1 target and 1 catch. And it's just, this team is just so balanced. LaFleur, he's been in this league now for about 8 to 9 years as a head coach. He's won MVPs with his quarterback. He's taking his team to the NFC title game. Now they can have a good defense with Jordan Love. It's very scary. And then for Detroit, lastly, Justin, I just feel like, it's Jared Goff on the road. What do we expect? I'm saying, of course, they didn't score a touchdown to the 4th quarter. That's ridiculous. They only had 6 points pretty much the whole game there, Justin. Very disappointing. I'm excited to see what Dan Campbell kind of game plans, because next week they do have the Bears at home.
Yeah. And, we were talking about the spreading the wealth to different wide receivers. That kind of helps me lead into this next game, where you think that there's an alpha wide receiver, but the box score and the way the game played out was not like that. And I am talking about this game with the Rams and the Texans, and I am talking about the Texans because the biggest takeaway is I was extremely disappointed from what I saw from Nico Collins today. It wasn't a great performance from him. The Rams, I guess they just had a good play scheme to get him not as involved. CJ Stroud didn't have a great game, no touchdowns, 1 pick. The Texans team didn't score a touchdown. It was all field goals. So it was kind of a disappointing outing for the Texans offense. I think the Rams defense is really good though. So I won't take it away from them too much, but Chubb was the clear lead back. Nico Collins, I do think will bounce back, especially in a game against Tampa Bay next week. I think he will do well. And then on the Rams side of things, oh man, Puka Nacua, guys, he just showed out. He just showed why he is arguably going to be the number 1 player in fantasy football this year. I think that he was a dog, and he literally got hit so hard he was bleeding, came back onto the field, and was just everything for this Rams offense. Was able to really put the game away near the end. Kyron Williams was really solid as well, so I'll give him his credit. Got in the end zone too. But Puka Nacua he's that guy. He is legit. If I'm upset I didn't get him in as many leagues as I wanted to. I was hyping him up this offseason, and then obviously a lot of people were down on him, including me, because of the Stafford news, and that could change things. But with Stafford, man, he to me is the best player in fantasy football right now.
Yeah, Justin, 11 targets. He even missed a chunk of the game, I would say the end of the first or maybe beginning of the second. He did get hit really bad. Don't know where exactly, but he was bleeding, and it looked like, oh, man, they're about to just take him out, complete the game. Even in the 3rd quarter, they had to take him out again because his helmet, or they wanted to check him out. I think it was just NFL safety protocol, for concussions. But other than that, Justin, 130 yards, 10 catches. He made some really big catches on that and one of those final drives to kind of seal the game. He did make the catch to seal the game, I believe. It was a play action pass on 3rd down. Stafford kind of threw it over. I want to say it was Jalen Petrie for that game clinching 1st down. And Stafford looked pretty good. I couldn't see what they were talking about as far as all these back injuries, and he was hurt going into this week, but he looked pretty good to me. I mean, 21 for 29, didn't turn over the ball, 245 and a touchdown there. It was to Davis Allen was his only touchdown today, but really good. Kyron Williams impressed. He looks really good this year. The lead back for sure. I think he's on a streak, Justin, like 8 games in a row with a touchdown. So Kyron Williams, a guy that you drafted, I did in the second round, a 12-man, pretty good. And then lastly for the Texans, that O-line is just, I mean, C.J. Stroud can't really do much with that there, Justin. I mean, what do you do when they're blitzing and this offensive line, for the life of them, cannot figure it out. But it's going to be. I'm a Texans fan, guys, and so it's really tough as a Texans fan to pill to swallow. Our leading receiver today was Jalen Higgins. The story of the game was really Nico Collins with only 5 targets and only 25 receiving yards. I mean, they really locked him up today, Justin. I mean, it was a really tough watch.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that they'll get better. I do think the Rams defense is legit, and that's a big part of why they struggled today. But I think they're missing Joe Mixon as an offense. And I hope that Nico steps back into the spotlight. He's that good. So I just think it was a tough day for the Texans. And the last since it is Sunday, but it is currently happening, we'll just talk about the first half a little bit and run through that because it is halftime now, 20-13. So it's been a good game thus far with the Ravens and the Bills. Derrick Henry has himself a day already with over 100 rushing yards, 123 on 9 carries and a score. Lamar Jackson got himself in the end zone as well, and they piled that on with 2 field goals. And then on the Bills side of things, it was a Josh Allen to Dalton Kincaid touchdown. So this game looks like it's going to be pretty good throughout, and you're going to be happy about it. But, I think that's all I got to say about it. And we'll just kind of close it here because we have been running for an hour now talking about today's games, but there's a bunch of games today. So, and it's the first week too. So we're just kind of jittery, excited, eager to kind of discuss this season because we are back. We are officially back, ladies and gentlemen. But thank you guys for listening to the live stream and our discussion about week 1 of the fantasy football season. So thank you guys for listening. And Genoa, send us out.
Yo, Dwayne Nation. This was our first live stream recapping week 1 thoughts, reactions, maybe predictions going forward. Week 2 is going to be just as fun. We're so excited. We get to do this for 17 more weeks plus playoffs and Super Bowl. So this is going to be so much fun. Justin, I had so much fun doing this. This is kind of our first, in a way, official live stream in some ways. But you know what, Justin? So much fun. And you know what? We got half a game left tonight and 1 game tomorrow night. And then, Justin, we're on to Thursday night. Commanders, Packers. So excited. Thank you guys for watching. We love you guys. And as always, alive. Peace.